Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you my spooky fall TBR. So it is, what, the 10th of August today? It's basically the prelude to spooky season, which for me starts in September. It gets pushed forward a little bit every year. It'll probably be the last week of August next year, but we'll see. I am a basic bitch. I love fall. I love autumn. It's like the perfect time for reading, especially here in the UK. It's always damp and terrible and gross out, and staying inside, bundled under blankets in nice jumpers with lots of cups of tea is just the best thing ever. I am so incredibly excited for the fall this year. It feels like the summer has gone on forever. So in order to celebrate that, I am going to be picking out some horror books that I would love to read. I still consider myself to be a newbie to horror. I probably shouldn't anymore. I have been reading it for a couple of years now, but I am always looking for more and more horror books that I love, because some of the stuff that I have read since starting BookTube and since discovering some amazing horror booktubers like Rachel from Shades of Orange, who is my favorite horror booktuber, although she does other stuff as well, I have found some amazing things and I want more. So these are not all of the horror books on my TBR. There's definitely some that I'm missing, but these are just ones that I grabbed after a really quick look through my TBR, and these are ones that I'm hoping to read this fall season. So I'm going to start off with a book that I'm actually reading right now. I'm in the middle of Uzumaki by Junji Ito. He is, of course, a horror manga writer, very, very famous, and this is probably his best known book, which is basically about a town that's like infected with spirals and cursed by spirals and how that's affecting the town and the townspeople. This is super weird so far. I find with his books, as I mentioned in my video about the first 3 Junji Ito books that I read, I find that I really need to read his stuff, sit back, absorb it, and then I can kind of come to a conclusion on how I feel about it, because his stuff is very, very weird. And this is very, very weird so far, so I'm not 100% sure what I think of it as of yet, but I am about halfway through. I'm past the snails, which is probably the weirdest thing I've ever read in my entire life, but yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. It's very, very, very strange. Next, I have a book that is actually a brand new addition to my TBR. This is something that I hauled this month because my friend Amber from Books of Amber is an incredibly kind person and is also trying to scare the shit out of me, apparently. This is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. So I added this to my wish list after a sort of horror thriller book talker, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, I'll link him down below because he's great, talked about this and said that this is a book that legitimately scared him. And I really, really love horror, but very rarely does it keep me up at night in book form. Stick a horror film on, I'm screaming, I'm crying, I've got my head under the duvet and I can't sleep for 2 weeks, but there's something about books that doesn't quite impact me the same way. So I'm looking for something that's really gonna scare me, and I think this might be it. So this book follows a family whose 14-year-old daughter, Marjorie, begins to display signs of acute schizophrenia. So doctors are unable to kind of halt this mental illness descent, and their stable home devolves into a house of horrors, and they end up turning to a local Catholic priest for help, which is probably never a good idea, and they find themselves the unwitting stars of a reality TV show called The Possession. So 15 years later, Marjorie's sister Mary is interviewed by a best-selling author, and she recalls the events that took place when she was just 8 years old while all of this was happening. This sounds great. This sounds really, really good. I have very high hopes for this one. I hope it scares the crap out of me, but also I kind of don't. So next I have the classic, one of my favorite horror movies ever is The Exorcist. So I have the book. I don't know really anything about what people think about the book versus the film adaptation. Usually people are really, really vocal about that, but I really don't know anything about this book, but I do think that it's quite good. I think it was a big bestseller. I think Scottish husband is watching the football. I don't know if you could hear that or not. Basically, this book I think follows the same, or at least a very similar storyline to the film, which is a young girl is possessed by a demon, local Jesuit priest comes to perform an exorcism, and shenanigans ensue. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this holds up to the film, or how the film holds up to the book. It wouldn't be a horror TBR video without some Stephen King, I think. I know that he is incredibly uneven for me. I love a lot of his older stuff, although it is deeply problematic. There are things about Beverly's shorts that we didn't need to know about in it, among other things. But generally, I really, really enjoy him. I haven't loved his newer stuff as much that I have read, but I really want to go back to some of his classic books. So here I have Salem's Lot. I'm gonna go into this knowing as little as possible. I know it's about vampires. Apparently it's amazing. This is supposed to be so good. One of his best books. It's something about vampires. And then I also have Pet Sematary, which is recently sent to me by my friend Sally for my birthday. So this is a newer addition to the TBR. It's basically got Dax on the cover, which is probably not a good thing, but that's okay. And yeah, I know that this is a film that I have not seen. I know it's something about pets who are buried, end up coming back to life, and that's also probably not a good thing because I imagine they're not quite the same cuddly friends they were before. But yeah, I want to go into these because these are both such well-known books. I want to go into these knowing as little as possible because I feel like spoilers are abound. I'm hoping to read both of these, but I would be very happy even if I just read one. And last but not least, I have some YA horror. So these are both newer additions to the TBR. I talked about these in my London book haul video. The first is Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendar Blake. This is an older YA book, but when I asked if people had read this and what they thought, generally people really enjoyed it. Apparently it's got some supernatural vibes, which, like, as an ex-Supernatural fangirl way back from like the early seasons, I was very happy to hear that. So this is basically about a boy who's hunting ghosts, but this particular ghost, Anna, doesn't end up killing him like she kills everyone else. Very curious to see how this goes. It says on the back, which cracks me up, it says, just your average a boy meets girl, girl kills people story. If it's a romance, I'm very curious as to how Ghost Girl and Not Dead Boy is gonna work, but we'll see. And then last but not least, I have a book that sounds like an absolute riot. So one of my friends, again on TikTok, read this and really enjoyed it. This is It's Behind You by Catherine Foxfield. This is basically about a reality TV show that is like, it aims to scare you to death and they're constantly upping the stakes again and again and again. So we have 5 contestants who have to spend the night in the Umber Gorge Caves, which is supposedly haunted by a ghost called the Puckered Maiden, which is like the worst ghost name ever. If I was a ghost and I was named the Puckered Maiden, I would be furious. That would probably be the reason why I would be haunting people, but I digress. So whoever lasts until the morning wins £10,000. So the TV producers are ramping up the frights and secrets start to be revealed. All the teenagers have hidden motives for taking part in the show. Could one of them be murder? We love murder. We love a thriller. We love some spooky stuff. I think that this is going to be a big hit. So that is it for my fall horror TBR. That's a fair few things, but I'm hoping to stretch this out over the next few months, read a few things here and there, and I just honestly can't think of anything better than curling up on a duvet, clutching one of the cats, possibly both of them, and wide-eyed reading a horror book. That just sounds like the best thing ever for this fall season. I would love to hear in the comments below if you have any horror books on your agenda for this upcoming fall season, or if you have any books that you would like to recommend. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.